Hey, what's up, guys? LegalBro here. Today we're breaking down probably the most important case in the country that could bring our country back together, the Dominion voting defamation case against Fox News. Let's get into it.
In their $1.6 billion lawsuit, Fox decided to settle $787.5 million. That's how much the Fox Corporation will pay. It's half of what Dominion says they were seeking, but a historic amount nonetheless. The Fox Corporation clearly deciding it was better to pay the money than have their star anchors try to explain under oath the election denialism and disinformation they either spread themselves or help spread by giving others who are lying a platform night after night after night.
So there's a lot to unpack there. What Anderson Cooper's talking about is that Fox News has recently agreed to settle their defamation lawsuit with Dominion Voting. Now, why would Fox agree to settle this? They are on the verge of getting a verdict that could tell the American public that this entire election that got Biden in the White House was a complete lie. And all Fox would need to do to defend their case against Dominion, number one, prove truth. Prove that the election was a complete lie. Trump won the election. Dominion was taking away Republican votes or adding in Democrat votes, or that there was some form of election fraud. If Fox proves that, they've essentially killed two birds with one stone. They've been able to defeat their lawsuit against Dominion, probably winning their attorney's fees and costs, far, far greater than paying $700 and some odd million to a company that's not even worth a fraction of that. And also, Fox can help prove a case that all of these Americans claim the courts got wrong, which is that the Dominion voting machines are the tool used by the left to commit election fraud. Wouldn't you think that if the Fox News anchors and Rupert Murdoch were telling the truth that this was an entire scheme that created election fraud, wouldn't you think they'd want the truth to come out? They were on the doorstep of truth. And Fox is like, well, gee, if we go through this door, we could put it in front of a jury who'd, reveal to the American public what really happened in the last election, which, it seems like people would want to know. Or, well, our company could just pay close to $1 billion to make this go away, which would severely prohibit an already failing industry. Yeah, let's go with door B. At this point, we've already litigated this for so many years. Why worry about what we're going to be able to get from a jury or appeal? I mean, I hate to say it, folks, but the court system is the best thing in the world if you're looking for truth. Why is that? Fox knows that it would have lost, because if it had any inkling that it would have won, it wouldn't have chickened out. It would have went to trial. It would have said, you know what? Let's let these fine folks in our jury panel decide our fate. We've been telling the truth the whole time. The problem is that the anchors at Fox and the personnel at Fox would have had to testify that they knew that the garbage they were pumping was false, and that it was more so to just keep their base intact and not to actually tell the truth. Interesting concept. People are less interested in truth and more interested in their political position.
Statement after the settlement was announced, Fox said, and I quote, "We acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about Dominion to be false. The settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standard."
Okay, so we acknowledge the court's findings that certain claims about Dominion are false. I wonder what they are talking about, because all that Trump would need, right, is for Fox News to find out that Trump actually won the election, or that Dominion voting was able to skew their voting machine to make sure that Biden won, right? Fox's best defense in this case is truth. And you're telling me that they end up acknowledging that some of the opinions, and you're telling me that Fox acknowledges that some of the opinions they made about Dominion were false? Absolutely disgusting. Not journalism at all. It's difficult. It's a very, very difficult position because of the fact that so many people believed the garbage that Fox was pumping, even though now the only thing that we need to review to figure out the truth in this case, well, Fox didn't want to go to trial, folks. Fox chose to settle. If they had the ability to win They would have. Let me repeat that. If they had the ability to win, they would have. They would have gone to the jury. They would have tried their case. They wouldn't have chickened out. They knew that there was no basis behind their claims of election fraud. But they did it because they are trying to satisfy their base. Now, CNN does the same thing, right? CNN is no pariah here either. I mean, CNN is as bad as it gets when it comes to pumping left bogus viewpoints and then, basically doing all of these things to prohibit people from telling their true story. Personally, I think all of these national media outlets should deserve zero advertising dollars and they'd all go by the wayside and leave it to the YouTube people to tell the truth.
Now, I just want to repeat that. The first part of it said, we acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about him be false. That might sound sort of maybe like an apology, but it's not. They acknowledge the court ruling doesn't really mean anything, and their description that certain claims about false is vague at best. As for the second part of that statement, that this settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standards, as Mike Wallace used to say when someone shoveling crap, come on. If there is anything we learned from the depositions, texts, and emails that were released by Dominion in the lead up to this case, is that there was no commitment to even basic stand where the 2020 election was concerned. Fox anchors said one thing on air to the audience they feared might abandon them, go over to some other more conservative channel, and another thing off air in texts and emails to one another. What most concerned Fox was not properly reporting on the lies spread by guests on their air or by some of their hosts. No, what most concerned them was losing view. Fox argued it was just reporting on claims about Dominion, its voting says 2020 election, but they did far more than that. They were willing participants spreading false claims.
The machine that shaved votes from Trump and awarded them to Biden. The machine trashed large bad votes that should have been awarded to President Trump, and they used the machine to inject and add massive quantity votes for Mr. Biden. The only reason we found out how bad.
I thought Democrats told us that we like whistleblowers, saying that these people can't talk because they're going to lose their job.
Now, that's Sean Hannity weeks after the 2020 election was cited by Dominion in their def. Hannity told the Dominion lawyers in a depth quote, that whole narrative that Powell was pushing, I did not for 1 second. Anyone with journalistic standards would have confronted Powell about her completely ludicrous.
Oh, Hannity, that is absolutely terrible. You are sitting there on TV talking about everything that this woman is pumping, talking about it as if it's truthful and that there's something that is going on behind the scenes that everybody in America needs to know about. And then really it's like, cut. You go back, you rip off the wig, you brush your makeup off, and you go home, you probably jump into your fancy sports car and you're just like, holy smokes, you think anybody would believe this shit? I don't think so. No way. He knew. Hannity knew the whole time that what he was pumping was a bunch of nonsense. Unbelievable.
And false claims, but he didn't do that. The documents also show that Tucker Carlson privated about Sidney Powell, as did others at Fox, but he wasn't saying them on air. According to Dominion, sent her a text message, quoting now from a Dominion court filing, quote, Tucker Carlson told Sidney Powell, quote, telling our viewers that millions of votes were changed by the software. I hope you will prove that very convince them that Trump will win. If you don't have conclusive evidence of fraud at that scale, it's a cruel and reckless thing saying. Again,
boom. That is exactly what Dominion's defamation suit against Fox News will have to prove, is that there was some malice, right? Because Fox is a national news channel, they have an increased standard. Malice is what you have to get to. It doesn't mean that somebody says, hey, look, I think these guys are full of it. I don't think they won the election, in my opinion, right? That's not what we're talking about here, folks. What we're talking about is that Hannity and Tucker Carlson knew that the statements that Powell made on air were hogwash, where they were nonsense. They were pixie dust. They were a fairy tale. And they knew that the statements were reckless and that the people that voted for Trump would be irate enough to continue fighting for this election fraud, trying to overturn it, right? To cause Biden and all newly elected Democrats the most amount of trouble possible. But Fox and its anchors knew that these statements were reckless and they disregarded it. They still continued to pump this bullshit narrative. That's what this lawsuit is about.
And he never said anything like that on his show. As the Dominion documents point out, Carlson hosted other election liars like Lindell.
Every outlet in the country, they go, Mike Lindell, there's no evidence and he's making fraudulent statements. No, I have the evidence. I dare people to put it on. I dare Dominion to sue me because then it would get out fast. So this is it.
There you go, Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell taking my job. I don't even need to do it. Mike Lindell hits the nail on the head here. Look, here's what's going on. Dominion voter fraud. You want me to prove it? Sue me. Go ahead and sue me, Dominion. That's what he's saying. In reality, Lindell knew that the only defense he had would be truth. That's why he's saying that. But meanwhile, Lindell knows truth is the only thing that can save him here. And yeah, unfortunately, there's one problem here, Mike. He doesn't have truth on his side. He can't actually prove it. He's on Fox News saying that he can. Nothing.
You know, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say. They just say, "Oh, you're wrong." And I'm going.
Well,
you know,
they're not making conspiracy theories go away by doing that.
Certainly, there's no pushback there. There were times Fox anchors made the right call. For instance, Neil Cavuto cut away from a lie-filled campaign press conference.
We want every count, and we want every illegal.
Well, I just think to be very clear, she's charging the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, can't in good countenance continue showing you this.
All right, well, that.
So Cavuto here does the right thing, right? They have somebody, a clip of somebody or a guest on that maybe is saying some stuff that's like, little crazy, maybe fell off the wagon and hit their head, right? Got kicked by the mule when they were a kid. He's just saying, hey, look, until we can prove that this actually occurred, we can't go sliming our political opponents because we don't know if what they're saying is truthful or not. And we need to err on the side of caution and say, hey, folks, yeah, we don't endorse what they're saying. That's their own opinion. Cavuto does the right thing here, and that is what we are talking about, which is people can have their opinions, but you cannot recklessly disregard something that you know is false. And that's how Cavuto stepped around that. Props to him. Kudos for him.
It's a sign of some journalistic standard, but we now know that Fox executives were upset by quoting the Dominion documents about a communication from Raj Shah, a Fox senior vice president who once worked at the White House. Quote, the brand team led by Raj Shah at Fox Corporation notified senior Fox News and Fox Corporation leadership of the, quote, brand threat, unquote, posed by Cavuto's act. It was a, quote, brand threat to tell your audience not going to allow unvetted, unsubstantiated claims about the election on air. That doesn't show much corporate commitment to the highest journalistic standards. In fact, when a reporter dared to fact-check the former president's lies about Dominion, Tucker Carlson, according to the documents Dominion released, was freaked out, reached out to Sean Hannity, seemingly panicked. Quote, Carlson told Hannity, please get her fired. Seriously, what the F? Actually shocked. It needs to stop immediately. Like tonight, it's measurably hurting the company. The stock price is down. Not a joke. The fact that he allegedly works for a news organization fretting about the impact of facts on the corporation's stock price, that is, the stock price is down are not the words of someone with the highest standard. And by the way, according to the documents, by the next morning, that reporter had, quote, deleted her fact-checking tweet. Turns out Tucker Carlson hated Donald Trump. According to messages Dominion got from Fox during the discovery process, he wrote in a text message to a colleague, I hate him passionately. And he also wrote, we are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait.
Truly, truly remarkable stuff here. So Tucker Carlson, right, admitting. So first off, how do we even know that Tucker Carlson said this? Well, in Discovery, we learned that they are able to get all of the interactions between Tucker and Sean and all these different anchors, right? I'm sure those are highly amusing to get through. But one of the things that's so striking about it is think about the nonsense that Tucker Carlson is sitting there and putting up with, listening to these witnesses go on and on and on about election fraud. And yet, think again, cut behind the scenes, pull the mask off. He goes back to average Tucker Joe, and he's like, I hate this guy. This guy's breaking our country apart. The sad reality, folks, is that there are people in positions of power in our country that care more about them making a dollar than our country knowing truth. Before now, it didn't matter because it was private industry. The reason why it is such a big deal now is that our fourth arm, right? If we had bureaucracy and media, we'd have 5 arms of government. But one of our major tentacles, the media, is now wholly controlled by private interests, and the only thing they care about is making money. They don't care about telling the truth. That is the issue with America. Both sides.
Start this evening with Davida Brooke, the lead counsel for DIM Systems. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Can you talk about the decision to settle? Obviously, from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. A huge number. You're representing a corporation. A jury trial is unpredictable, no matter how strong one's evidence may be. Given, though, the threats against Dominion employees, against the family CEO and election workers, use your equipment, the Dominion equipment, why settle for financial without an apology?
Anderson, and I appreciate that. I asked your question, hit on it perfectly. So IRECorp's lawsuit was about two things. It was about getting them accountability, and it was about getting them justice. And we felt like we got that account with the summary judgment to expose all of the very information that you so eloquently went through production. And today was about getting them some justice, not just in the form of the single largest defamation verdict I think this country has ever, not in the form of, I think, the single largest payout Fox has ever made, but these are people, as you said, who have spent the last 2.5 years receiving vicious and horrific threats on their lives and to not have to come out here and relive that trauma and do so on such a public stage was something that we were happy to be today.
Now, if you're Dominion Voting's lead counsel, you may be having a drink or 40 after this win. I mean, literally the craziest sequence of events, right? You go from being the absolute worst thing in America for like 45+% of people that think that Dominion Voting single-handedly stole our election, to basically being like, hey guys, it wasn't us. This whole thing was just a complete sham. Talk about truth. Talk about a win. Unbelievable win for Dominion. $787 million. I think the original amount that they said the case was worth was just over $1 billion, 1.3 or more. This isn't a bad lick, right? I mean, a lot of times you hear, oh, people never go to trial. You know, all the attorneys are greedy and they want to settle this. Look, if you're Dominion and they offer you almost $800 million to settle this suit, and you're like, $800 million, go to trial and win, whatever, 1 point whatever billion. If Fox is willing to come up with this, they probably have the ability to pay and a way to pay. If Dominion goes to trial, even if they win their appeal after appeal, they may try to do one of those Texas two-steps like we've seen the scumbag Johnson & Johnson do, where they try to sever part of their organization and then bankrupt it while they keep the other part intact. Thankfully, Court of Appeal has denied that request for Johnson & Johnson to do so. But anyway, Dominion Voting is obviously sitting in position A. Fox News licking their wounds like a rabid dog. And the worst part is that they won't even end up telling their viewers the truth. They'll say, well, it was in our best interest because of X, Y, and Z. Sure, little tisk. We said some things about Dominion that we knew weren't true. We still have journalistic standards, even though Tucker and all these guys have said they knew this was all bullshit. No skin off our back. I think the main issue here is that we need to get this far and wide, and not because of rooting for Republicans or rooting for Democrats, but our systems in America are at risk. If people lose sight of this, we are going to divide as a country. People need to trust our voting systems. They need to trust our democracy, our courts, our Congress, our executive branch. The minute that people stop trusting those parts of our society, we become just like every other Bay of Pigs revolutionary front where we are going to have some issues. It's good that Dominion was able to pull us back. Now we just got to spread the word about it. If you like this content and you want to see more of it, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about Dominion unveiling the truth in the comments section. And as always, thank you for letting justice and truth win and for having faith in our judicial system. LegalBro, out.